We're going to have a look at a little passage from the letter to the Colossians. To my mind, this passage captures the heart of the Christian gospel and the heart of our mercy mission. Now, if you turn it over, you've got it there. It's an extract from a first century letter attributed to Paul of Tarsus and addressed to a community of believers in Colossae, which is now in modern Turkey. It was a town in Phrygia and part of the Roman province of Asia Minor. Now, you might just listen as I read it. I did ask Kathy if she would read it in Talk Pigeon also, but she's not well, so she's not with us right now, so I won't spring it upon the others from Papua New Guinea, but they have the handout in Talk Pigeon, so they can follow it. You can follow it either in English or Talk Pigeon as you like. So, as God's holy ones, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, clothe yourselves with compassion, mercy, splankna oitimu, kindness, humility, gentleness and patience. Bear with one another, and if anyone has a complaint against another, forgive each other, just as God has forgiven you. So you also must forgive. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you are called in the one body. We'll leave it at that point because I'm watching the time. Paul addresses this little community in Colossae as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved. Every person is God's chosen, holy and beloved. Every creature is God's chosen, holy and beloved. Every earth element is God's chosen, holy and beloved. The whole earth belongs to God, our psalmist tells us. To be named holy is not to have it all together. To be named holy is not so much about personal virtue as about being dedicated or consecrated to God. And that's the Jewish tradition. Everything belongs to God. So having been named as chosen, holy and beloved, the people of the community of Colossae they're told to clothe themselves. They're told how to dress for the journey, for the Christian journey. The act of clothing is used as a metaphor in this context, just as we use water as a metaphor without attending to the materiality, to the material reality that underpins that metaphor. The prayer this morning invited us to do precisely that. So the attention we've given to the earth gift of our own clothing might help us to understand and to honour the goodness of the material reality that underlies or informs this metaphor. This is baptismal language. Clothe yourselves. It evokes the practice of shedding one's garments and being fully immersed in the waters of baptism. And then when you come out of the waters of baptism, being robed in a new garment. Now, the first named garment to be worn by God's holy and beloved ones is compassion. Now, have a look at the Greek there. Splankna oitimu. Splankna are guts, innards. The innards of mercy, the guts of mercy. And a very similar, on your handout you have a very similar passage in Luke. Zechariah. You remember Zechariah who lost his voice, and when he got it back, he couldn't stop talking? And John the Baptist's father. And he talks about, by the tender mercy of our God, the dawn from on high will break upon us. And the word that's used there is splankna, with a different word for mercy, eleus. So, splankna oitimu. And we translate that as tender mercy, and that's our chapter motto. That's our chapter guiding words from Scripture. We find the related adjective, the mercy noun used in this passage is oitimos. And in Luke chapter 6, be merciful, oitimones. as God is merciful, oitiamon. So it's a mercy word, be merciful. So the guts of mercy, and best translated, I think, tender mercy is the best translation. It's mercy that comes from the very depths of our being. Tender mercy encapsulates the response of Jesus in the face of human suffering. And you can see those intertexts down below. You know, when Jesus is confronted by the leper who's suffering, he's said to be moved in the depths of his being, esplankniste. When the Samaritan, the story that Jesus tells about the priest and the Levite, they pass by, the Samaritan goes up close and he is moved with pity. Esplankniste. It's that same word, it's that tender mercy. And what does he do? He draws upon earth elements of oil and wine and fabric, bandages, and to tend, to respond. Esplankniste. It always demands a response in an active response. So, in these instances, as in our passage from Colossians, we're dealing with tender mercy in the face of human suffering or human need. But in our times, the earth itself, we know that the earth itself cries out for compassion, for tender mercy, and Jackie's talked about that. And Pope Francis reminds us we have to change our consumerist ways of life, if life is even to continue on this planet. So we're called to clothe ourselves with compassion or tender mercy for the whole earth community, human and other than human. The additional garments are of kindness, humility, gentleness, patience, forgiveness, forbearance, wisdom. They're all essential clothing for the mercy mission to the human and the other than human. And if you notice, the outer cloak of love binds us together as one in our mercy way of being on this planet. So if we take time to become more aware of how God's earth cares for us at every minute of every day, then we might be impelled to clothe ourselves with compassion, with tender mercy for all the earth elements we engage in pursuit of our mercy mission. Our buildings, our lighting, our heating, everything we engage, our clothing. It's just where we began. We'll use only what we need of the earth's resources. We'll consider the cost to earth of what we build, of what we buy, of what we procure for the mission. We'll value what we use and we'll be ever so careful to limit the waste.